Hi, everyone. Welcome to Therapeutic Wisdom from the Akash, and welcome to Awoken TV. If any of you have not been part of Awoken TV or have been here before, let me share how you can learn more about Awoken TV. You can go to www.awoken.tv and you're going to find that this is a spiritual and metaphysical Netflix. It's an opportunity to access content from conscious filmmakers and light workers around the world who are really encouraging learning of spiritual tools, metaphysical tools. There's courses available to you. There's other shows and films that are available to you. So definitely go to awoken.tv to find that out. Also, share this out if you don't mind. I'm going to take a moment to do the same. And anybody who's interested in learning about the fight or flight response, anxiety, panic, right? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to be giving you guys a lot of education today, in addition to sharing some of I guess the protocol that's really been downloaded from the Akashic Records this week as to how we are supposed to be handling this fight or flight response right now. And that's what's beautiful about the Akashic Records, which is like the Google for the soul, that spiritual library in the clouds, right? It's really our opportunity to learn in whatever moment or week or time in our life what is really going to serve us best to fulfill our soul's purpose. Okay, so say hello if you're popping on and let me know where you're tuning in from because I want to make sure that I can see comments. My name is Knapp Mazzotta and I am the Akashic Therapist, which means that I have been a therapist for almost 20 years and in addition have incorporated the Akashic Records and energy and spiritual healing into my work for greater levels of efficiency and effectiveness with healing. So today we're going to be talking about the fight or flight response. So put a 1 in the comments if you guys if you're familiar with the fight or flight response. And let me know how you've experienced it. Like, how has this shown up in your life and how does this show up in your life now? Typically what we see with the fight or flight response is intense anxiety, mind racing, sweating, heart racing, dilated pupils, increased blood pressure, trembling, sometimes trembling and shaking, and sometimes feeling like you're not in your body, that dissociative response that we talk about. Dissociation is really feeling like you're going somewhere else, right? You're not really present in this moment. You feel like you're kind of in a trance, in a fog, okay? So all of these things can happen because we have a very natural, primitive response to when we feel threatened or when we feel triggered. And this, of course, began way, way, way back when, right? When humans initially evolved and we were afraid of having a bear come to us and attack us. And we needed to protect ourselves. We needed this response in order to keep us safe, in order to keep us healthy and away from harm. Okay. So this is a very primitive part of our brain that reacts to triggered threats. Okay. So what happens though is that now when we have fight or flight responses, it's often for situations that don't necessarily warrant a fight or flight response, okay? But it automatically kicks into gear because these are neurological pathways that have been paved from ancestors way before us, okay? Even in past lives. So, and don't forget to say hi when you guys are here so that I know the comments are working. I'm looking back and forth between my phone and this just to make sure that I can welcome you guys here and ask any questions that, that come to mind. So how many people are interested in learning about the biology of this? I'm going to go over it very, very quickly so that I don't bore you with all of the scientific details, although I could nerd out on these scientific details pretty much all day. But basically what happens is that when we get faced with a trigger, the first thing that happens is the signal goes directly to our amygdala. And our amygdala is our emotion center. So that's really regulating and interpreting a lot of what comes into our awareness. Okay. So the amygdala sends distress signals to the hypothalamus. And then the hypothalamus communicates with our autonomic nervous system. Our autonomic nervous system is that part of our sympathetic nervous system that controls all of our automatic body systems and functions. So you can talk about breathing, heart rate, digestion. What else? I think I wrote down blood pressure. Okay, so all of these things are managed by the autonomic nervous system, and there are all these processes that are occurring behind the scenes that we don't have to put thought into. We don't have to make a decision to breathe. We don't have to make a decision to regulate our blood pressure, right? It just goes on in the background, okay? So it really serves us quite well. So when the autonomic nervous system gets kicked into high gear, right, everything speeds up. So we have this increased heart rate, we have this increased breathing, increased sweating, okay? And then what happens is our pituitary gland signals our adrenals. So the hypothalamus then signals our pituitary gland because what it has said now is, oh my gosh, look, the amygdala interpreted this as a threat. The body responded. Now we're in hyperarousal mode, right? Now I'm hyper vigilant, which means that I'm looking around all the time like, oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to get attacked? Right? So now you're in that mode. So it signals the pituitary gland to say, hey, guess what? We have an emergency. Okay, so then that signals the adrenals, which releases cortisol. How many of you have heard of cortisol? Give me a high five in the comments. That's our stress hormone, right? And what happens is cortisol tells our body that we're in high alert, right? The problem is that when this surges on a consistent basis, it can lower our immune functioning. It can raise our risk of heart disease with heightening blood pressure. It can really wear out our adrenals. Now you can understand why people get adrenal fatigue. A lot of people with chronic illnesses or autoimmune issues have adrenal fatigue. You know, and a lot of this is from chronic stress. And it could be chronic stress that didn't even occur in this lifetime. It could have occurred in a previous lifetime. It could have occurred in ancestral lifetimes that we have now carried down through us because we bring that stress response, that trauma response down 3 generations. I talked about PTSD, I think, in my first video, which was a few weeks ago. So you guys can return back to that if you'd like to learn more about the PTSD response. Okay, but we want to make sure that we are being conscious of how often these cortisol surges are occurring, because over time, if this happens more consistently, our immune system just consistently gets suppressed. Okay, so when we're in this state where we're like, our minds are racing, we're feeling like we're out of our body, our anxiety's super high, we're panicking, we feel like we're losing it, right? That's what happens when you're in fight or flight. So what is one of the things that the amygdala does? Do you guys remember? It interprets. Okay? It interprets that there's a threat. So the one thing that we can do, obviously, is shift and rewire our interpretation. Okay? We can do that consciously by shifting our beliefs, by rewiring our brain. And there's so many ways to do that. Tapping is one beautiful way to rewire our brain, because you're releasing those beliefs that no longer serve you, those interpretations that no longer serve you, and you're integrating new ones so that these triggers that come towards you don't always, they just show up as a memory, right? Something that might still trigger a memory cognitively for you so that you remember that this is something that might have impacted you previously in this life or in previous lives. But it's not necessarily going to elicit the same emotional response when we rewire. Okay, so that's why tapping can be so productive. But the first thing that we have to do when we enter into flight or fight mode is to establish a sense of safety. That's number 1. So write that down. Step 1, establish a sense of safety. So how do you just establish a sense of safety? Share some ideas in the comments, please. Let me know what makes you feel safe. How do you feel safe? Is there a person? Is there a location? Is there an object? Is there a sensation that makes you feel safe? Warmth always makes me feel safe. My weighted blanket always makes me feel safe. I'm nice and cozy and I feel held, almost like I'm curled up. My little inner child is being snuggled. My husband makes me feel safe. A pet can make you feel safe. Your home itself can make you feel safe. Grounding on Mother Earth can make you feel safe. One of the best ways to establish safety is to incorporate all 5 senses at the same time. So that means that, you know, I'm going to be snuggled under my blankets. I'm going to have that sensation of warmth, but I'm also going to drink some hot tea for taste. I'm also going to meditate or look at an image that is very soothing to me. It could be a picture of a beach. It could be a picture of my children. It could be a picture of my wedding day. Something that's very soothing for me and comforting. At the same time, you can put on music that you're listening to so you get that sensation of sound, okay? So incorporate as many of the five senses into one activity as possible. One great one that my clients love is when they go in the shower and they turn on music when they're in the shower, and then they kind of draw in the soap. They pick a soap that like smells really good or something, so they get that sensation. And then they're able to kind of like write messages and they in the soap on the wall. So you can incorporate the five senses in a bunch of different activities. So that's one way to establish safety, along with all the other things that I mentioned earlier on. Step number 2 for working with the fight or flight response is soothing. Okay, so now your body knows you're safe. You have integrated signals. Just as you have this trigger that triggers this fight or flight response, you can also intentionally implement signals to show your mind and body that you are safe. Okay, so once you integrate those, you've given yourself the message, I'm safe. Great, awesome. Now your body will respond to soothing skills. Your body's not going to respond to soothing skills before you establish a sense of safety because it still thinks there's a threat. Okay? So then you're going to integrate these soothing skills. So what are the things that you guys do that feel soothing to you? And I am not seeing any comments. And you guys may not just be commenting, which is fine, but I just want to make sure that you know I'm not seeing them in case you're looking for feedback or asking questions. So what are the things you do to soothe yourself? One way to soothe yourself is self-massage, because that's also very grounding. You're reminding yourself, I'm in my body, I'm here, I'm present, I'm safe, right? You can just touch any parts of your body. You can do self-massage with lotions that smell really good. So what are the kinds of things that you do to intentionally soothe? Journaling could be something very soothing. Drinking a cup of hot tea. So this is a separate intention of being safe. You've already established safety. And you can also repeat mantras if you want to with safety, like I am safe, I am grounded, I am here, I am now, I am. Those are the kinds of mantras that are really productive for establishing a sense of safety. However, you need to do something more physical to establish safety, and not just cognitive, because your mind's going to be running a million miles a minute. You need to bring the body down to safety. Okay, that's why sensation, like using warmth and incorporating those five senses, is really helpful. Okay. So then step 2 is soothe. Okay, so you can pick something that assists you with soothing. And some of these things can overlap with the things that establish a sense of safety. They can be both. Okay. But the purpose is I guess the important part is the intention behind it. Number 1 is establishing safety. Number 2 is offering yourself soothing. It's very loving. You're giving to yourself, okay? Just like you would help a kid calm down if they were stressed out or revved up, okay? Number 3, for responding to the fight or flight, we have safety, we have soothing. Number 3 is confidence. Okay, so now you've soothed yourself. So now you're gonna think about, what are those things in my life that bring me confidence, that make me feel like, yeah, I got this. I got this. Yeah, that's an area of my life where I know what I'm doing. And I either want you to preferably take action towards those things. Hi, Deborah. Thank you for saying hi. I wanted to make sure comments were working. So when you take action on steps that move you toward this situation or act that make you feel confident, or even, just belief that makes you feel confident. When you take action steps, you're really putting them into play. You're really integrating them even more into your physical body and into your human experience when you take action on it. You can also just envision it, right? If you can't take action at that time, if you're feeling kind of paralyzed because you're in fight or flight, then you can always just kind of do what we call imaginal exposure. So you're going to imagine yourself in this space where you feel really confident. Oh, wow, I did this awesome presentation at work. And so I'm going to envision myself doing that so that I am calling in that memory of confidence, that memory of I can do it, that memory of I have resources, I can access them, I know how, and I can implement them, right? I am a strong, resourceful being. You can also create mantras out of this that you repeat. But again, if you're not in a place cognitively, because your mind's running so fast, if you're not in a place cognitively to be able to integrate mantras, then you really need to focus on the physical body, which is more about just taking action. So it's like, all right, I feel really confident when I'm with my friends and I'm offering them advice. Okay, so reach out to a friend. You don't even have to say, this is what's going on and I'm a hot mess. You can just say hi or send them a heart, right? But taking some kind of step, because what you're doing is signaling your mind, I am moving toward confidence. I am moving toward that version of me that's kick-ass. And I have the resources to do so. And I have the choice to do so. I can decide and choose to do that. Okay? So this is a really, really important step that a lot of times gets overlooked. Because it's like, all right, well, you need to feel safe and get soothed and then you'll be better. No, because guess what? It's just going to come back again. And it still may come back again. The goal when you practice these kinds of protocols is that they're going to happen less often and they're going to be existing at a lower intensity and lasting for a shorter period of time when they do show up. Okay, so love yourself enough to make this commitment to yourself. I just posted yesterday something about commanding. That's a lot of the messages that have been coming through the Akashic Records this week. Command your reality, command your resourcefulness, command your presence, command that queen version of who you are. Right, and we do that by not necessarily, oh, when I'm sitting there all zen and chill and I get to call in these skills. Yeah, that's great. I love that you engage in those practices. They're very preventive. But then it's when we're faced with these fight or flight situations that we are really put to the test. So if we have a protocol in place that we can follow to either refer to on our phone or on a Post-it, and we start to practice that consistently, we become reliable. We start to rewire our nervous system, because we didn't get to fight or flight overnight, guys. This came from years of conditioning, right? Years of having situations in which we felt threatened. And so we created these neurological pathways and responses to keep us safe and healthy. The other really important thing here, which I learned so early on in my therapy work, in grad school, I believe, is that there are some people that feel more threatened by disabling the fight or flight response. For instance, people who are in a gang or who live in the inner city where there's a lot of violence or crime. You want to be very cautious about how much do I shift this wiring? Because if I shift this wiring and then I go out on the street and I'm all chill because I've rewired myself, you don't want to put yourself in a place of danger either, like realistically. Okay, so assess your environment and ensure that it is in your best interest to shift your fight or flight response. Okay, because sometimes it is appropriate to keep it in place. Now, that doesn't mean, oh, so if I live in a place with a lot of crime, I'm just going to be anxious for the rest of my life. No, absolutely not. Because you can rewire for specific areas of your life and specific situations. Okay, so you can say, all right, well, this trigger reminds me of this, or this trigger is bringing up this for me, but it's unrelated to my current environment. Awesome. Awesome. Then rewire that one. Okay. Deborah, I think I got it. And when pushed, I lose it. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's when we're put to the test. And that's why practicing skills consistently cannot be driven home clearly enough, because that's what makes it automatic. You guys have heard me say a few times already, 21 days makes a habit. Make sure you do it for at least 21 days. Set an intention to do it for 21 days and keep that commitment to yourself. Even if it's 1 minute a day that you read over this protocol. Establishing a sense of safety. Number 2, soothe. Number 3, confidence. Number 4, that's our last step here. Number 4 is also critical and also often overlooked. And this is the beautiful part that the Akash was bringing forward the other day too. When we manage our emotions in any way, shape, or form, even if it's the teeniest amount, even if we shift from a 10 to a 9.7, I want you to really feel into and sink into feeling proud. Proud of yourself for taking this time to honor the emotions, to honor yourself, to honor what's coming up, to putting effort into shifting it, to love yourself enough to do that. Proud that you have the awareness, enough awareness to even do this, to even think about this, to even start to implement something, to even have this in your field. That you're not avoiding. Because guys, that's what the vast majority of people do. These triggers come up and then they avoid, or they want to hide. That's the worst thing you can do in terms of moving forward and changing this pattern and rewiring the fight or flight response so that your interpretation shifts. Because then your amygdala is not going to automatically interpret this trigger that you've been rewiring as a threat anymore. Right? And we can't just do that with thinking about it, with talking to ourselves about it. We have to communicate through our bodies too. We have to integrate our bodies into this practice because it is a neurological, long-standing patterned practice. Okay? It's not enough to just think positively in this situation. We have to incorporate multiple layers, okay? When we manage our emotions, it's empowering. When we're able to rewire this stuff, it's empowering. It feels great. Allow yourself to feel that. Feel proud of yourself for being able to feel that after coming from a situation that felt like you were going to die. Okay? That's huge, even if it takes you an hour to do it. The fact that you're putting that effort in and you can even call forward this protocol when you're going crazy, feels like you're going crazy, is an opportunity for celebration and showing pride and feeling pride in yourself. Really feel it. Don't just say it. Don't just read it. Don't just write it down. Really feel it. Okay? So when we do the soothing practice, which is step 2, what that does is it activates our parasympathetic nervous system because our sympathetic nervous system has the autonomic nervous system as part of it, right? So we activate our parasympathetic nervous system. We induce the relaxation response. And one of the quickest and easiest ways to do this is to take 5 long, deep, diaphragmatic breaths all the way into the base of your abdomen, like you're scooping it out. You can do 3, but especially if you're in fight or flight, you're going to want to do 5 and possibly 7. Okay, because we want to also start, this is why meditation and Qigong and breathing techniques and yin yoga and things like that are so effective as preventive tools, because what they're doing is like massaging and nurturing the parasympathetic nervous system so that you're less jumpy, you're less hypervigilant, right? Your baseline is getting programmed to be a little more chill. But it's very hard when people are in fight or flight. It's very hard for people to jump into breathing techniques. Very, very hard. You need to ground and find safety first, which is why we do that first before we bring in soothing, okay? So let me know if you guys have any questions. But I just want to stress the importance of making this a practice and incorporating this protocol, because especially if you've been dealing with long-term stress or long-term physical illness or physical symptoms in any way, you're wearing down your adrenals. You're wearing down your immune system. Okay? So let me know if you guys have questions. I have a free event that's happening on Sunday night if you guys want to join me. I have the link, I believe, in the description of this post that you can sign up for. But it's a free Zoom event. It's called Fresh Start. And we're going to be opening our Akashic Records, so you'll learn how to do that. And then we're going to be engaging in a subconscious exercise that is just kick-ass. It's awesome because what we're going to be doing is really identifying, where are you now? What are your patterns? What's showing up in your life right now? How's that going for you? And then creating another pattern with the Akash. for your unique soul purpose and for what's in your highest good and the highest good for all. And it's beautiful because we're going to be really offering ourselves a path and tools to be able to use to communicate with our subconscious in a way that it's not going to negate us like our ego does. Okay. So I will also put the link in the comments so that it's easy for you guys to access. But sign up for that because I'd love to meet some of you and connect face to face and support you in your own personal Akashic record for your own personal unique soul path. And what's best for you. This is what's going on now. Okay, just because you label it as negative doesn't mean we get rid of it. Okay, so that's why it's important to go into the Akash to do this. Because I do these exercises with my patients when I'm not in the Akashic Records. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Absolutely, you want to feel better? Sure. And then we enter their Akashic Records and they're like, yeah, no. You need to go this way because I can't see somebody's soul path just sitting around and talking to them without going into the records or without accessing divine intelligence, right? So it's a really beautiful practice. So I hope you'll join me for that. Deborah has a question. So when someone is pushing you, the bottom, just breathe. My emotions take over in the pit of my stomach. Okay, so if they take over in the pit of your stomach, and are you talking about like right here, like in your solar plexus, or down in your sacral underneath your belly button? So when somebody's pushing you, no, that's what I was saying. Like you don't want to just breathe because that's not, I mean, listen, you can try that. You can absolutely try that. But you're going to want to establish a sense of safety first, because if you go into anxiety, into fight or flight, you're going to want to defend yourself. You're going to automatically have a defensive reaction, right? So it's important to get curious at that time, right? If they're triggering you, if they're pushing you, instead of labeling it or getting defensive, you want to get curious about it. This is interesting. This is creating a response in me that's very intense. This is creating a response in me that makes me feel threatened or unsafe. So before you go into, oh, let me talk myself through this and take my breaths, before you do that, establish a sense of safety. Remind yourself, I am in command here. I am my own master. And you got to ground yourself first to do that. You can go outside and put your feet on the ground or put your butt on the ground, absolutely. But you can't always have access to, I mean, you do always have access to that, but sometimes like if you're at work and you can't leave or something like that, sure, that makes sense. So you can ground yourself in your body. You can put your hand, one hand on your heart, one hand on your lower belly. That's like that's like a personal hug. Put your hands on your thighs, right? And all those tools that we talked about at the beginning about establishing a sense of safety. Do that first. Solar plexus, yeah, that's all anxiety. That's all willpower. Your central sun confidence, which is why this protocol for you, Deborah, is so key. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You're moving from that threat all the way to confidence and pride. How amazing is that, right? How amazing is that? If we can get into the practice of shifting this trigger from being freak out and, oh my gosh, I'm not safe and what's going to happen to me, to pride and confidence, holy cannoli, that's amazing. Right? How much power do we have if we're able to do that? And we are able to do that. So does that answer your question, Deborah? You're welcome. I'll send you a little Reiki now too. So just take some breaths in. Anybody who wants to receive this is welcome to receive it, just to the solar plexus area. Just repeating some mantras here for you. I am strong. I have my own free will. I am confident. I am resourceful. I can source and resource. I am a powerhouse. I choose to access and execute my own unique power. Taking a deep breath in. Just allowing the rays of that central sun for your solar plexus to distribute throughout your physical body, to distribute to your other energy centers, your other chakras. Offering gratitude, friends. gratitude for all of the triggers and the things and the situations and the people that come up in our lives that scare the shit out of us, that piss us off, that agitate us. Thank you for all of it, because guess what? It heightens our awareness. It offers us opportunities, guys. These are coming up because it's offering us an opportunity. It's the universe screaming, rewire this stuff, right? Reset this stuff. Reset it so we can be peaceful, so we can be calm, so we can be collaborative, okay? And for a real deep dive into this reset, join me on Sunday for this free event called Fresh Start. I'll put the link in the comments. It's already in the description of this post. I would love to connect with you guys on Zoom. I love opening the Akashic Records with people and sharing this with as many people as possible. It's such a beautiful tool. It's a critical tool to be able to empower yourself, to be able to reach that state of confidence and ease that you're looking for. So sign up, hang out with me on Sunday night. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. And I'll see you guys here next week. All right, at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. UK. Therapeutic Wisdom from the Akash. Thank you for joining me here live or on the replay. Definitely tag me in comments if you have questions so I can answer. I love you all. Have a beautiful weekend.